Okay, so we're just over an hour into the US market session on Wednesday, the 22nd of May. This evening, Nvidia reports earnings after the close, as I'm sure you're doubtless aware. So I thought we would take a detailed look at the charts and analysis of Nvidia. So I'm using a version of Trading Vision that has some of the new cycles tools on it. This will be released to you within the next week to 10 days. It's not got all of them on, but I'll point out the ones along the way. The first thing is, let's go all the way out to a monthly chart for a moment, shall we? And right back to the IPO launch in Nvidia, and pretty much off that IPO all the way back here in the late 90s, it's moved up. And the way I'm counting this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as a leading contracting diagonal into the peak in 2008, which is a cycle degree wave 1, the pullback into the March 2009 low, therefore, as the cycle degree wave 2. And therefore, this move up, I think, is all part of a cycle degree wave 3. And if that's correct, then we've got the wave 1 of that 3 came to just north of the 38.2 fib extension. So the length of the wave 1 projected up off the wave 2 using, as you know, the logarithmic scale fib extensions. Then what we have is the wave 3 of 3 subdividing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that came all the way up to the 1618 fib. So I think that's not the overall larger 3. I think that was the 3 of 3. The pullback then that we saw into the low back, when was that? In 2022 was a wave 4. And what we've seen, this extraordinary move up that we've seen in Nvidia off that low, is the 5th wave of the larger degree wave 3. And when it concludes, then we should see a wave 4 at the same degree that tends back towards the wave 4 of 1 lesser degree. So when we do get a larger degree pullback, this stock's going to pull back to between $95 and $156. So one hell of a fall from grace when we get to that point. Now, if we look at the cycles on a monthly basis just for a moment, and the first thing you'll notice is this green highlighting with these numbers in here. This is an enhancement to the algorithms that identifies for you. You've seen me picking out the manual cycles and saying these are the ones that I want based on not just the initial strength score, but the Bartle score as well as the amplitude. So the AI algorithms in the background now do that for you, and they give you the first and second and sometimes third rated in order. So it's suggesting we should be looking at the 138 month cycle. And if I just plot that for you on the chart here, the other thing we've now added is the dot. It shows you where we are, and that lines up with the phasing score. So the phasing runs from plus 100 to minus 100. So plus 100 is right at the epicenter of an expected peak, and minus 100 is right at the epicenter of an expected trough, and 0 is halfway between. And then the plus and minus, if it's a positive note, it says the cycle's still moving up. And obviously the closer to 100 you get, the nearer the top you are, and vice versa. But if I plot that 138-day cycle, you can see we're right at the point where this is expecting a pullback. Now, the tops don't always come in precisely on the cycle, and you've always got more than one single cycle in play. And I certainly wouldn't be picking tops off a monthly cycle, but it does suggest that we should be considering caution here. If you own this stock, then you want to make sure that you are keeping a tight rein on it and not and protecting any profits ongoing. You can see the last cycle low here came in rather nicely. And if I just take this off for a moment and we look at one or two of the other indicators, at the moment, no showing of momentum easing off on a monthly basis. The CRSI, though, is in a red zone here. It's diverged, and I think it's not far off a sell signal. the Mansfield is starting to curl over, but you know, it gave the buy all the way back here on a monthly basis, and it's been on a hold long ever since. Now, if we come down the time frames, let's go down to the weekly time frame. Again, I'm just going to hide the cycles for a moment, and let's zoom in a little bit more on the this move here. So in June of 2023, we got this low, and from there, this looks to me like a straightforward impulse move to the upside. And if that's correct, wave one to here, two back. And again, these fibs here are the length of the one projected up off the wave two. We got a very, very extended wave three into the 238.2 fib. And if you go back to the back end of last year, when I put out the analysis of a whole bunch of stocks to have on your watch list, this is where we were. And it needed to break out above 520 to give the next buy signal. You can also see there was the weekly squeeze building up, and it fired to the long side as we broke out. So that was your price compression in the wave four, and then the breakout. It also gave buy signals on the weekly time frame on the CRSI right off the low, but it gave the continuation buy signal on that breakout of 520. The question is now, is this done? I suspect it's got another push up to complete the move. And if you look at the resistance zone, bear in mind this is a weekly chart, 1028 through 1272.50. That's the region that I would expect to see this wave three terminate in. It's the overall 2.0 extension off the all-time low, and it's just the 3618 extension. We're in a very extended move up off this primary degree wave four low in Nvidia. Now, if again we take a look at the cycles, and again you can see it's highlighting here the 151 week cycle. So if we just plot that for a moment, and again you can see that we're right at the top of the cycle. The phasing score is at a max of 100, and it should be starting to turn down on a weekly basis. Now, momentum on a weekly basis. This last part of this move up has been on declining momentum. The weekly squeeze has more than run its course. So it doesn't mean we can't get another little diverged high, but I would say that the upside in Nvidia from here is limited before we get a much larger degree move to the downside, lightly back into the support zone shown on the weekly chart. So it's basically going to give up all of that rally that we've seen off the June 2023 low in its wave four, which will take some time to complete. It's suggesting all the way out into the end of next year, potentially. If I then look at the cycle harmonics, so if we highlight the 151, you can see that the harmonic of a 3 to 1 is the 48 week cycle. So if I add that in to give you a little bit more nuance, it's expecting a move down, then a consolidation, followed by another move down. And you can see how well this composite has tracked over time here. So on a weekly basis, the cycles are suggesting that any upside is limited and likely to be short-lived in Nvidia before we start a multi-month move to the downside. Now, if we then look at the relative rotation graphs on a weekly basis, and what I've done, I've used MAGS. MAGS is an ETF for the Magnificent Seven. And if we do it as a comparative, there's the stocks in there. These are these mega cap tech and semiconductor stocks that have been responsible for the majority of the recent moves up in the market. And we do a comparative against the SPY. You can see Nvidia, it's been in the leading sector, but it's heading straight down and it's pointing towards a weakening. This is on a weekly time frame. And that move is looking like it's going to move into weakening, and typically it will need to rotate. So unless it can hook back up, which I am not convinced on a weekly basis, given the cycles and given the proximity of the resistance area above, that we would see that. If I then do a comparative against the most relevant sector ETF, which is XLK, And again, if we look, at Nvidia here is already lagging the XLK on a relative basis, and that's on the weekly time frame. Now, if we take this down to a daily time frame next, and I want to do the relative rotation on a daily time frame. So on a daily time frame here, again, Nvidia is already in the weakening sector and heading not only down but across towards lagging. So the relative strength wise, it is weakening. Momentum wise, it is weakening, and cycles are suggesting that there may be some more upside, but I'll show you that in a moment. But any upside is likely to be short-lived. Now, daily chart, and let's just look at the cycles on the daily chart as well. So I've got two key cycles that I'm following. One is the 98-day cycle, and again, you can see that the software has highlighted that as the key dominant cycle to be tracking here, and that's starting to point up, and it's saying, you know, it's got a phasing score of 99.95. It's got a little way to go on that cycle before it tops out, and it's suggesting that it's going to top out towards the end of June this year. So that would indicate that this larger degree wave 3 is not in. Now, if I take that cycle off, well, if I put it back on again for a moment, and we go to the harmonics, and the relevant harmonic is this 41-day cycle here. So if I add that in, you can see there's the phasing. It's suggesting we're going to get a pullback into the 1st to 3rd of June, and then the final move up, so that we're going to get a pullback and then another move higher here in Nvidia. So the daily cycles are pretty supportive of what we're seeing in the weekly. They're saying that we should get another move up, but that it's likely, again, to be short-lived before we get something much, much bigger to the downside. Now, I'm going to take those off for a moment and just pull this over. This evening, the first level above price to watch on a daily basis is 1028, which is a 3618 fib extension of the entire move up off the 2022 low here. And, you know, that's a fairly extended move. Below, and this is on a daily basis, the support region is from 756 all the way down through 651. We would have to take out those levels in order to suggest that the larger degree move in Nvidia is in fact done. If you look at the momentum signature here on the squeeze indicator, you can see the divergence, and you can also see there's the daily squeeze giving this last little run up, but momentum also on the daily basis coming off. CRSI is hovering above the upper band, and it looks to me like it's not far off a sell signal. Mansfield is still technically on a buy signal, but it's very, very close to turning again through the band and giving a sell signal here on the Mansfield. Now, if we then take this down to a 2-hour time frame, if we've got higher to go, then it would suggest this, that the pattern up off the most recent pullback here is all in threes. So if this is a final fifth wave that we're seeing to the upside here in Nvidia, then there's the 4. You've got a clear A, B, C up. If we then pull back to here, A, B, C, you can see we're right at the 1.0 extension, but this looks like a little 4 to me. I think we're going to pop up to the 123.6 fib at 989.47, and that would conclude a 3 in a diagonal. We then get a wave 4 back. The must hold level on any pullbacks, whether it be this evening or later, 812.55 in this pattern, after which we would then see an ABC up to the 1012, 1057. I mean, it can go all the way up to the 1117 area. The alternative here is that this is an A, B, C for a 1 in a much, much larger diagonal structure. Again, it can still push up higher to 989 to 1012 would be the obvious area. And then we would get a pullback The pattern doesn't break unless we can take out 756. So just to give you some precise key levels, above us, watch each of these fibs on the daily chart, starting at the 123.6 fib at 989, 1012, 1051, 1076. I would be surprised to see it above 1076 in this pattern. Then on any pullbacks, the initial level to watch would be 812.55. Providing we remain above there, we can get a fifth up in a diagonal. Or if we pull back deeper, then the key level that would still leave higher levels to be seen is 756. Should we trade below that, then it is more likely than not that we have seen a very, very significant top in this stock, and we are going to start the multi-month move to the downside. While we're above that level, then there are a number of different ways that this stock can still subdivide higher. Now, if I just take it down one more time frame, these are the gamma levels for today in Nvidia. And the key levels here, the HVL, which is the zero gamma level, we're well above that. We're in a positive gamma environment, 874.64. So that's another level to watch this evening in Nvidia. The max expected daily move based on the open interest in the options market at last night's close, 1008. So that would be a very clear level to watch this evening as well, in between the levels that I have already given you off the daily chart. What I will do tomorrow is we will revisit this chart, say an hour, 90 minutes into the session tomorrow, and see where it is in terms of progressing along the path and whether it's actually moved in line with the expectations that we've got overall that we've outlined in this video.